So let's do Life Animated, a film by Roger Ross Williams, who I think was the first African-American director to win an Oscar. He won for Best Documentary Short for Music for Prudence in 2010. So the film is about Owen Suskind. I've always thought it was Suskind, but he's been pronounced it very clearly as Suskind, as in kindness, son of award-winning journalist Ron. And at the age of 3, having up until that point been a apparently happy child, started to display developmental problems, stopped talking, stopped communicating, and retreated into himself. He was diagnosed with autism and had a very, very difficult time at the school that he was at. Didn't seem to be working, and he seemed to be, retreating more and more. And his parents became, very, very concerned, very, very worried, and unclear how to proceed. The only thing that Owen seemed to be connecting with was Disney cartoons. And he was obsessed with Disney cartoons, absolutely loved Disney cartoons, would watch them over and over again. And so his brother, who's in the documentary, would watch these films with him because it was, it was a way of connecting, although Owen didn't talk. And then one day he was apparently asking for juice because he said this, but he said, juicevos. And they thought he was asking for some juice. They went and got him some juice, and he didn't want the juice. And he said, no, that's juicevos. And then when they were watching the Disney cartoon, Little Mermaid, he got the rewind, and they went back to the moment when Ariel's voice is stolen. Just the voice. And it turned out that what he was saying was just the voice. And he was repeating a line. Now, they went to the doctor and said, this is a major breakthrough. And the doctor said, it's echolalia. He's merely repeating something that he's heard. Then his father, on a whim, as far as we can tell, attempted to talk to him using a puppet of Iago from Aladdin, hid himself under the bedclothes and held the puppet up and asked, what's it like to be you in the voice of Iago? Like that. And this extraordinary breakthrough happened, which is that Owen replied. He replied using language from the movie, using phrases from the movie, and they suddenly discovered that what they had was a breakthrough to communicate with him, that he was, in fact, he had an extraordinary recall of all these movies that he'd watched over and over again. But whilst watching them, he had been using them to sort of learn how to figure his way through through the world. He was able to express that he was lonely. And as a result of this, he was able to start having conversations again, which reconnected him with those close around him, and indeed reconnected him with all the others around him, to the point where it was virtually like it became a life animated, and it became the beginning of something which had profound consequences. Here's a clip.
I started a Disney club so I can get to know more people and they can be around me, so I can be more popular. Shannon? It worked. Tonight we're watching some of The Lion King because this year's the big 20th anniversary of the original release of The Lion King. Yeah, sure. Shall we?
Not only am I a big Disney fanatic, but I also like to play magical movie scores on this piano.
We watch parts of Disney animated films and discuss them and see what they're really about in our lives.
Now, the director has talked really beautifully and eloquently about his own experiences growing up as an outsider, somebody who was different to the people around him. And he said that as a result of this, he felt this empathy for Owen Suskind, and he was able to understand why it was that what the director says, he says, I was a loner who created a fantasy world. And Owen has created this whole fantasy world as a child in which it was the world of the lost sidekicks, a rich world in which he was the defender of the Disney sidekicks. They noticed that he was drawing Disney characters. He never drew the lead character. He drew the sidekick characters. And he had envisaged this kind of whole fantastical world for himself in which he was kind of like the champion of the sidekicks. And this part of the film is beautifully illustrated with very, very moving animations that call to mind the animated, like the Raymond Briggs animations. I mean, full of pathos and beauty and gentle movement and the subtle suggestion of emotion, but really profound emotional depth. And what the film then does, in a way which is, it's just heartbreaking and beautiful and wonderful and really, really uplifting is it talks about the way in which somebody has discovered a language, a way of discussing the world through these cartoons, and is able to talk very eloquently about the fact that the stories, the archetypal stories, meant so much more to him than what they might appear to be to somebody else. There's a sequence in that we're talking there with the Disney Club in which there's a sequence from The Lion King in which he's looking at his reflection, and it's the reflection of the father. And they say, well, what is it about? Well, it's about losing your parents and also, wanting to connect with things that are transcendent. I mean, it's, really discussing what these stories are about. The other thing that is lovely is it's done with great candor and great honesty as a subject. One of the best things about Owen Suskind, in whose company we spend the whole movie, and it's wonderful company, is he's very, very honest. I mean, he speaks very, very honestly, and during the course of the film, it goes over the course of about a year. We see him graduating, we see his relationship with his girlfriend, we see him at one point going to do a speech in front of a room full of very sort of top academics that would scare the life out of anybody, frankly. And one of the things that happens is that his family talk about the way in which he interprets the world. And there's a lovely moment when his brother says, the thing is that because the Disney movies are so important, because the Disney movies have sort of taught him the stories, that sometimes you can find that his experience is formed by what's in the world of Disney. And he says specifically, for example, Disney movies will end with a kiss, end with a wedding, and there's a kiss, but there's nothing beyond that. So it's quite hard then talking about relationships beyond that. And there's this lovely, lovely sequence in which his brother says to him, you've seen people kissing in movies. And he says, they don't just use their mouths, do they? They use and Owen says, their feelings. And you just think it is really profound. And what's lovely about it is it's a film about the way in which cinema can really change lives, the way in which movies I'm a huge Disney fan anyway, and so many of us have grown up watching those animations over and over and over again, particularly in the world of video when that has become possible. But the director has talked about, in order to make the film work, they had to get the clearances that they need from Disney. They had to sit with the Disney lawyers, okay? Well, Disney are a big company, and their lawyers are probably scary lawyers like anybody else, but they showed them the movie to say, look, we need clearance to use these characters. We need clearance because otherwise we can't do it. And apparently the lawyers were in tears. The lawyers were just in floods of tears. Anyway, the film is called Life Animated. It is brilliantly directed by Roger Ross Williams, and I would encourage everybody to see it because it's a really terrific piece of work.